Singapore has become the hub of Asia, where a lot of businesses are setting up. There are obvious reasons for that.
Lots of businesses, lots of our clients are hubbed here, lots of other agencies are hubbed here.
We saw the scale of growth that this region was having in digital media and wanted to be there as quickly as possible.
Our clients were heavily investing out here. A massive shift and sort of a new frontier, I guess.
Of course, we're surrounded by countries that have huge populations, and just in the last few years, hundreds of millions of people have become internet users for the first time.
So to be a hub, you know, for this footprint provides a lot of opportunities for brands and for clients.
Singapore has a big opportunity to really lead the way. That's because it has a population that is very, very tech savvy. If you look at internet advertising, it's increased by about 10.3% CAGR year on year. In fact, the market was a $162 million market back in 2013. It's predicted to grow into a $264 million market by 2018. So a huge amount of growth.
I have multiple friends who've set businesses up here. They're amazed at the ease of setting up a business. It takes days rather than weeks. You know, I dread to think how long something like that would take in China or in India.
When you think about ease, what does that mean? It means that there's a well-developed infrastructure here, 4G technology when it comes to mobile. There's a very, very good pool of skilled workers as well.
You know, certainly for a lot of American and European businesses, you know, the fact that English is the primary language, primary business language, makes it much easier than, for example, trying to set up in Shanghai or Beijing.
So in terms of what I guess we've learned and I've learned about being in Singapore versus Europe or the US, and I've lived in both and done business there, is that, you know, there's really huge diversity in this part of the world.
If you look at America, it's essentially a fairly homogenous block, and you could argue similarly in Europe. The way you need to behave in a United Kingdom is not too different to how you need to behave in a France or a Germany. Slight nuances, but when you come to Asia, Singapore is extremely different to a Thailand or a Hong Kong or in Indonesia.
If you're in a regional role, you're working cross-culture. You know, one day you're in Jakarta in Indonesia, the next day you're in Malaysia, following day you might be in China.
The influence of religion, the influence of economy, the influence of just the rising affluent middle class that every manufacturer is trying to capitalize. These are very complex issues. These are very peculiar to every market.
From a people perspective and kind of habits and working styles, right through to things like technological adoption. So the adoption in Singapore is extremely high. It's one of the highest in the world.
We've actually got mobile penetration of 150%.
You know, you also see home broadband penetration is extremely high, at probably 95%.
It's one of the key differences with the Singaporean market as opposed to North American markets and European markets. I think it's the adoption of mobile. It's very much a mobile first market. 85% of consumers own a smartphone, the highest anywhere in the world.
24/7 content consumption is really done mainly on our smartphones as opposed to tablets and other forms of surfaces.
The fact that people are just on their phones all the time, they're watching movies, they're watching TV programs, they're doing it on the tube here. You could never be on the tube with a 4G connection in London like you can here, streaming TV programs on your phone.
The majority of the people in the region, the first way they'll access the internet is through a mobile device, and it's unlikely that they'll go from mobile to laptop. I think, you know, mobile will become the primary means of access to the internet.
Having a strategy for mobile as a conduit and connector of brands and consumers, if you don't get that right, you're not going to be around in the future.
Actual usage of mobile from a communications perspective is probably lagging way behind the ways that consumers are using mobile.
I'd like to say it affects things, you know, in a big way, and that we're all thinking mobile first and acting mobile first. But you know, quite honestly, I don't think that's been the case.
in terms of what that means for our customers, the ad agencies across the region, is of course, you know, their investment in reaching all these new internet users through mobile devices is rapidly increasing.
The impact for us, the implication for us, is that we need to ensure that we have very, very, very clever connection strategies and make sure that the content is placed within the right context as well.
And also, I think if you look at the context of Singapore, Hong Kong, China, is that there's more of a will to try innovative things for clients. So more, I could say, managed risk-taking.
It's developed enough to be a great kind of hothouse for the region in terms of trying new stuff, but it's also small enough so that any experiments that you make in the market aren't hugely impactful should they go wrong.
Consumer data is now flowing quite freely through mobile, whether it's application-based or through the telcos or through apps and different consumer programs. Data in that space is really allowing us to connect one-to-one, especially in the areas of programmatic.
As with getting more data about people's actions, that of course is a goldmine, and it's, you know, it's the big gold rush within the industry.
Quite honestly, the location-based opportunity is going to be the significant driver of mobile campaigns here.
You know, I guess when people first spoke about location-based advertising, it was all about the idea of walking past Starbucks, getting a coupon and going in and redeeming it. Now we believe it's kind of one step further, which is it's not necessarily about where you are now, but where you've been and the history of your behaviour.
If we think that we need to reach someone who is going to open an investment account tomorrow for a bank, and they need to put in a minimum of $50,000, well, that's a pretty tight audience. But if we know that they've been at a high-end golf course and then have been shopping in a premium location, and they also go to a Mercedes dealer, those location tidbits really help us understand how we can do much tighter targeting.
You do need technology that can compute the millions and millions of bits of data points, that can pull out trends, that can isolate observations that people can't necessarily see. But you do also then need brilliant people.
For as long as the Singapore government remains competitive and continues to attract businesses into Singapore to set up here, and so long as the Singapore government continues to invest and partner with companies like Google to create more data and analytics talent in Singapore, Singapore will continue to remain very, very relevant as an Asia hub in our industry.
They're now starting to focus a lot more in terms of making it a more creative space, trying to attract people from the creative industries to kind of build up a sense of kind of more culture, I guess, culture and creativity around Singapore, which will be a huge factor, I think, in attracting the best talent.
And I fell in love with the fact that the place is safe, incredibly efficient, and the lifestyle here is just amazing.
People obey the rules, probably more so than sometimes they should. Be nice to kind of throw a bit of chaos into Singapore at times.
I've seen Singapore when it was considered boring. But now something is happening every week. There's an art show, there's, you know, we're opening National Gallery next year. There is, you know, event after event and festival after festival, you know, just a list of artists who come here for concerts. It's such a vibrant city, it's easy to live, it's great to travel from here.
You know, it's a small country, and the media industry is a small industry within a small country. So, you know, we do have pockets of Singapore where it's impossible to walk along and not find someone on the corner having a beer. So we do have our very own Charlotte Streets and Sohos of Singapore.